Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So in today's tutorial, we're going to go ahead and create the functionality to be able to update different products. So in the last tutorial, being able to create the functionality to be able to search for different products. So in this tutorial, we're going to create the functionality to deal with the updating of the product. So in the last tutorial, I did this. So if I search for a product, I get the product. If I search for sugar, I'll also get back sugar because I need to refresh this, and then I'll be able to get back sugar. Okay, so if I do sugar here, I'll be able to get back the sugar product, right? So this is what we're able to implement in the last tutorial. So in today's tutorial, we're going to go ahead and actually implement the update functionality to update the different products. So let's get started. So to first be able to update this product, right? So I don't want to be using props, as I said. It's difficult to pass props around, so I'm going to use the context manager. So let me just go back to the product row. This one contains the individual rows in here. So each product row has a button called update, right? So I want to deal with this update button. So you can see we have a button here called update. So right now it doesn't have any function. So what we want to add on it is on click, and then we want to call a certain function. Okay, so now I need to pass down this down to the row object using the props. So I'm going to say update, and then you're going to have this function is called handle updates. Okay, so now I'm going to come here and just define a function that deals with handling the update. So I'm going to put it right here, and const, and then this is going to be handle update, and this is going to be an arrow function. And for now, we're just going to write console.log I'm just going to log hello world. So whenever we click that button, we're just going to log hello world. Now we have passed this down here. We need to come here down to come into the row here, and then we need to accept it here, pass it down here, and then we can add on click event listener to our button. So on click, make sure you watch out for the casing. On click, this is going to call the update function, and what this is going to do, this is first going to be an object and an arrow function, and then it's going to be an object that takes an arrow function, and we need to pass in an ID, right? So pass in an ID, and here I forgot to pass in an ID, so I need to accept an ID here. I need to accept an ID. So that's all we need to do. So great. So whenever we press that button, right, on click, whenever we press this button, so on click is going to call this function, and this function is going to pass the prop up, raise the state, and it's going to come up here, and then it's going to call the update function, and the update function, what it simply does, takes in an ID and then logs hello world on the console. So let's try it out if that's working. So I'm going to refresh this. So I have an error. So handle deletion, I have an error there. So let's check what the error is. So it's actually here. Okay, I think I made a mistake. So yeah, so let me just try to refresh. I deleted some things by mistake. So yeah, now that I have that there, so we can go ahead and actually begin to write the functionality for this. So what you're simply going to do is let me just inspect this and inspect this page. So I'm going to inspect the page, and then I'm going to bring this here, and then bring up the console. So whenever I press this, I get hello world. You see, whenever I press it, I get hello world. Okay, so okay, I actually deleted the product. Whenever I press it, I get hello world. So great. So now that's working. So instead of getting a hello world, we don't want to get a hello world. We want to perform a certain action. So what we want to do is, first I'm going to create a context manager, and then we want to update that context manager, and then push and then redirect the user to a page where you can be able to update the product. So there'll be a form, and then the user can be able to update the different products there. So for now, I'm just going to create I'm going to push the user. I'm going to push to return the user whenever the user clicks on the button. I want to return him to a page where there will be a form, but for now I'm just going to create a page, and then later on I'm going to return the user there. So I'm going to import something here. So I'm going to import use history from React router DOM. Okay, so I'm going to say import use history from React. So this is actually a string, so React router DOM. That's all. So now that I have that, I'm going to create I'm going to instantiate to create an object of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say let history, this is going to be equals to sorry, this is going to be use history. So use history, just like that. So whenever we are going to press on this button, right, I'm going to call the use history here, and then I'm going to call history.push, and then the history is just a stack, so I'm going to push the current URL into this stack. Now I'm going to define the URL just in a moment. So I'm going to say history.push, and then I'm going to push the current a certain URL, which I'm going to define just in a moment, which is going to be called update product. So this update product is going to be a URL, and then this URL is going to point to certain component. So let's make sure I go ahead and define that component. So I'm going to come here and create a new component. I'm going to call it update product.js. Okay, so update product.js, and in here I'm just going to simply return a simple thing. So I'm going to just import React from React, and then I'm going to have a function here, and I'm going to call it, it's going to be called update product, and then this update product, so with a capital P, update product, and then this is going to be just an arrow function, and then this arrow function is going to simply return, let's return just a h2 tag, just say hello world, just like that. Yeah, that's all we need to do. So I forgot the equal sign here, so we're going to do that, and then we're going to export this as a default, and then this is going to be update product. That's all. Great. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and actually go to the app.js here. So in app.js, we need to create a route that deals with that. So I'm going to create a route here, so I'm going to call it route. Route is going to be exact, and then it's going to be exact, and then specify the path, and the path now is what the name that you have specified there. So the name, we called it update product. So update product is the path that you have just pushed to the let me just say it's here. So go to product table, so it's the path that you just pushed to the history. So you just copy this this, and then come here, and then you paste that here. So that's all I've done. And then the component is going to be update the product component, and then it has been already imported for us. So great. So and then I close off that route. So great. So now let's go back to front end and try this out. So let's try to refresh this. So now let me go on update, and then you can see it takes us to this this page, and it simply returns a simple hello world. So great. So if I click on update, it should take you here. Great. Now that we have that functionality working, now we don't want to just return hello world here, right? So we want to actually create a form, and the form should contain the details of the current product, and then the user can be able to update those products, and then make a push request to the server to update that product. So first of all, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a context, because I don't want to use props around. Props can become messy pretty soon. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a simple context. I'm going to call it update product context, and the update product context will enable us to be able to update the products and deal with the product without having to pass a lot of props around. So great. Let's begin. So I'm going to create a file. I'm going to call it update product context, just like that. So let's just rename that. I made a typo. So update product, get here, try to rename that. So update product, just bring this way, context.js. So update product context.js. Great. So now I'm going to minimize this. So in the update product context.js, you're going to create a context manager, just like the way I've done. So I'm going to import React, and then I'm going to create context. I'm going to import create context, and then I'm going to also create a state here, because we want a context to be able to manage a certain state, right? So this is from React. Okay, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and actually export something. So I'm going to say export const, this will be update context, and then this is going to be create context. You're going to create a context here. Great. And then what we need to do now, we need to export this again. These are not default exports, these are non-default exports, so don't make them default. So update product context, and update the product context is just going to be product context provider, and then this is going to be this is just going to be an arrow function. So get that right. So what you're simply going to do in here, first of all, you're going to take in props, right? You're going to take in a props, because the props contains some property called children that you're going to use just in a moment. So I'm going to create a const. I'm going to call it update product info, and then I'm going to call it set update product info. Okay, info, just like that. And then this is going to be just called we're going to create a state here, so we use state, and then for now it's just going to have the following it's going to have an object with the following attributes. So each product is have a name, so product name, sorry, product name. So I have an error here. Let me see what the error is. So const update products, see, so this is just going to have an empty string for now. I think I have an error here, so it's called const update product info. So let me see where the error is. Expected so let me see, const update product provider is just okay. So I forgot the arrow, define the arrow function properly. So the product name is just going to be an empty string for now, and then we also have a quantity in stock. This is just also going to be an empty string for now, and then we also have quantity sold and the other attributes. So quantity sold, and then this is just going to be quantity sold is going to be 0. Even this should be a 0 by default, not an empty string, because these are going to be numbers. So, and then we also have a unit price, by default is 0, and then we also have a revenue, by default 0, and then we also have a product ID that you can use to make a request to the server, so the server knows which product to update. By default it's just an empty string. So great, so we have all that in place. We have the product name, the quantity in stock, the quantity sold, the unit price, the revenue, and then the product ID. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and actually just make a return. So return, we're going to return the context provider. So we're going to say update context, okay, dot provider, and the provider is going to have a value, and the value is going to be there's going to be a list, which is going to be this list right here. So I'm going to copy this, and then copy this only, and then move it in here, paste it in here. So that's the value that you're going to pass in, and then you're going to close off that. Great. So in here we're going to use the props that you have taken up here. Okay, so I'm going to copy that and bring it here, and then this props has an attribute called children, so I'm going to say children. That's all we need. So yeah, that's all we need. So now that you have created the context, now we can be able to use that context. So we need to use that context in the updates in here. We need to just undo that. Yeah, for now let's delete it to be hello world, and then we go to the products table, and then in here what we need to do is whenever the user makes that request, what you want to do is there is a press on the update button, right? What you want to do is we want to first update the context of that of the product update, right? This context that you have created, right? This context right here, we want to update this context. Okay, we want to update this value so that we can be able to use it in other places without passing the props around. Okay, so let's come up here, and then we can be able to use that context So what we need to do, we need to just come down and say const, and then this is going to be it's going to be update product info. Okay, and then this we also have this one called set update product info, and then this is going to be use context, and then the context that you're going to use, we need to import that context right here. So I'm going to import that context. I'm going to keep it here. So import this, we're going to call it it's called update product. So update product context provider. Yeah, I call it update product context, update product context, this one, update product context from this is going to come from to directories back, and it's called product, it's called updates, sorry, updates, I call it update yeah, that's update product context. Okay, so we're going to use that context right here. Okay, so now we need to pass in this context here. I need to pass it in here. So now that we have that update product context, so let's go ahead and actually now update the values in here. Instead of just before we push we redirect the user to /product update product, we first want to update the context before we do that. So now we need to filter the product to get only the product whose ID was being passed down from this prop. So the table row is going to pass down the ID of the product through this function, right? So it's going to come in here, it's going to be passed in here. So here it's going to be passed in here. So let's use it to get the product that we want to update. So I'm going to say const, I'm going to call it product, and then the product is simply going to be products dot the data dot filter. By now we are getting used to this, right? So this is actually just product, and then you're going to pass in another function here. It's going to get the product dot ID is going to be equals to, so product's ID is going to be equals to the ID, and then from there we're going to get the first element out of that list. So it's going to turn so as a list. You're going to get the first element out of that list, which is actually the product itself. So great. So now that we have that, you're going to go call set update product info, and then you're going to now set the values that we want. So I'm just going to go to the products context here. So we're going to update this value. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to bring it to here, and I'm going to paste it here, and then I fix that indentation. So great. So now the product name will be products.name. So product.name, and then quantity in stock, this will be product dot quantity in stock, and then the product you sold will be the product dot quantity sold, and then the unit price will be product dot unit price, and then the revenue will be product dot revenue, and then the product ID will just be the ID that we got in there, simply because we're going to pass this ID in here, because we use this ID to make a request to the server, so the server can know which product to get which product to update. Okay, so we're going to filter out. You've just done, you're going to filter, and I'm going to remove this thing of hello world. We're just going to get the product's ID, that the product that has been specified here. Using the ID, you're going to filter it, and then you're going to update the product info context, so we don't have to use props around. So now that the product the context for the product update product info has been updated, now we can simply go in the main, and then we can now enable we can now decide which components can be able to use that that specific route. Okay, so I'm going to go to app.js, and in app.js what I'm simply going to do is I'm going to wrap this routes around the product update, so that the product update can be able to use that specific context. Okay, so what I'm simply going to do, just above here, right, just above here, I'm going to add it here. So I'm going to call it update product context provider. okay, update product context provider, and then I'm going to close off that, and I'm going to copy all of these routes, copy that, and then move it in here, and then fix that indentation. Okay, make sure I fix that indentation. Okay, so great. So now I need to import this from here, and it has already been imported. So yeah, it has already been imported, but I need only one import. I don't need both of them, so I'm going to remove this other one out from there since I don't need it. Okay, so I'm going to import this, and I'm going to use it here. So this route, so whenever I wrap this context, whenever I wrap this this tag inside, whatever I wrap this well, sorry, what I mean to say is that whatever routes that is wrapped between this update product context provider will have access to this this state right that you have created. So it will have access to this state, and the reason why we want to have access to this state, because I don't want to use props. So whenever I update the state here with the current product that we want to update, then all these components will have access to this state right here, to this state. Okay, great. So now the reason why we are doing that is we want to get this into a form in the update product context. So if I go to update product is wrapped around this one, so it's able to have access to this state right here. It's going to have access to this state. So now what I want to do is, instead of just returning a hello world, I want to make a form, and the form is going to the current values of the form is going to be equals to the content of that context of this current state that you have just updated. Okay, great. So I hope it makes sense to you. It can be a bit tricky to understand, but just pause and think about it for a moment. It actually makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to close this for now. Close this. This is okay. I can leave that there. I can also close this for now. So we have only this here, the update product component, and I'm going to have a code snippet here. It simply has a form that you're going to use, so it's a bit lengthy to type. So I'm just going to copy the form, and then I'm going to explain to you something. So copy this form, I'm gonna copy it, and then I'm going to come here and then replace this with the form. Okay, good. So now that we have that, you can see that I have defined on change update product info and all this stuff. So I need to create a context that will be able to use those things. So I need to create a state that will manage our form, just like the way we did for the filtering form in the last video and other stuff. So I'm going to create a form. I'm going to create a state that is going to deal with the form value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to say import. Also, we're going to import some React Bootstrap components for this to work. We need to import form, we need to import button, and then we need to import CRUD, and then this is actually from React Bootstrap. Okay, great. And then I also need to import this is going to be a non-default. This is update context, and then this is going to be update product update context. Let me just see what I call it. I called it update context here. So I'm going to update context, and then this is going to this is actually 2 directories back. This is update product context. Okay, so now that I have that, I can go and actually use that context right here. So just like we have been doing, so it'll be const, and then this will be update product info, and then this will be set update product info, and then this will be use context. So we need to import use context from React. So I'm going to come here, and I'm going to import use context. I'm also going to import use state, because we're going to use it just in a moment. So use context. So use context, what it's simply going to do is simply going to take in update is going to take in update context, the context that you want to use. So it's going to take in update context, which is the context that you want to use. And now what is I have simply done, now that I have this context, you can see I have used it within my form. So the value of the form whenever we visit a certain page will be the value of this context, right? So now I'm also going to create another function called update form, and then I'll explain to you what I have just done. So I'm going to come here, and I'm going to create another function called update form, and this is going to be an arrow function. You're going to take in an event, and then the arrow function e.prevent. We want to prevent no, we don't want to prevent. We're not going to submit the form. So what I'm going to do is set update info, and I'm simply going to pass in an object, and I'm going to spread in the update. Sorry, I'm going to simply spread in there the update product info. This one I'm going to spread in the update product info, and then I'm going to pass in e.target.name, and then this should be e.target.value. That's all. So now that we have that there, so this is going to take care of updating the form for us, and then whenever the form has been updated, whenever this value change, it's going to update the state to the current value. Okay, so whenever we make we make a put request to the server, we're going to make a put request with a newly updated value. So that's what I'm going to do. So I have a function here called const, which makes use of the state. So we're going to use the state that you have created here. Then this state has been updated by the this state has been updated by the product table. So in the product table, we have updated this state to the current values of the form, to the current values of the of each individual product. And then in the product update context, in the product update, what you're simply going to do is we have made use of that state, and the values of the form will be the values of that from that state. Okay, so these values from each table, right, from if whenever you click on a product, its values will be passed into the set product info context. So in the update product, you're simply accessing the set you're accessing the product info for each product, and you're going to use that to fill the current value of the form. And then on change, you're going to update the value for each field by using this update function right here. Okay guys, so now that we have done that, you can see that I have actually made an error. So I had to pause the video and solve that error. So one of the errors that I made is that I made this to be lowercase. All React hook function, right, all React components must be uppercase. So yeah, and then I also have to change it in here, update. So this actually uppercase, and then also here is uppercase. Okay, so I made that error. So let me just save that for now, and then let's go back to the front end, and then let's try to refresh this. So we also have another error called post data. Now this is actually a function that I didn't define. So let me just go back to update product, and then it's actually here, this function right here. So I'm just going to cancel that, cut that out for now, and then let's go back to the front end, and then let's go to update product, and you can see the product details have already been filled. Great. So now I'm just going to go back. What you want to do now that we have that, we want to define a function called post data. So this is going to actually update the data, so we can actually, it's going to post to the server, and then the server is going to update the data. Okay, so now this on submit, whenever we submit this form, is going to call this function, and then this function is going to make the request for us. So what you have simply done for now is that you have created the form, and the form's value is the form's value is actually the product info update. That's why whenever we go back to the front end and I click on update, the values have been automatically filled for us because of this function right here, because we have set the values to be this. And on change, you're going to call this to update our state, okay, to update our context. Okay, so now that we have that, let's write the function to send the request, the new updated information to the server. So I'm going to call it post data. And then what this is going to be, this is going to be a simple function, and then it's going to be an async, and then this is going to be async, and it's going to take in an event, and then this is going to be an arrow function. So what this is simply going to do, we want to prevent default, so we're going to submit a form. So we're going to prevent default, and we're going to prevent that default right there. So now that we have that, we're going to now make a const. I'm going to call it URL, and this URL is just going to be a string. So it's going to be HTTP, and this I got this one from the front end, our backend. So you can just go and check that out. So this is localhost at port 8000. I just have to speed through this because I don't want the tutorial to become too long. So the product, and then for slash is going to be plus, and then it's going to be update product info. We want to get the ID of the product, right? So we can get product ID. Okay, and the product ID is what you have just is part of this context right here. That's what I have just passed in there. So product ID is what is in here. Okay, great. So that will be our URL. So this is really cons. Okay, so now that will be our URL. Now we also have another const here. So const will be response, and then this is going to be response. This is going to be an await. You're going to await this, and then you're going to do a fetch the data to, and then you're passing our URL that you have just defined up there, URL, and then you're going to pass in out the body for this. So the method is going to be a put. The method is going to be a put request because you want to update it, right? And then you're going to have mode is going to be course, and then you're going to have a cage. You have none cage, and then we're going to have credentials. This will be same it's called same dash origin, and then we're going to have the header, so headers, and then the headers are going to be of the following. So we're going to be going to pass in content type, and then the content type is going to be content type. Make sure I get the T to be capital, and then content type is going to be of type application /JSON. So we're going to be dealing with JSON. Now that we have done with the headers, we can also define the we can define the other body. We can define the body, and then the body is going to be a JSON.stringify, and then you're going to pass in here an object. So we're going to pass in the name of the product, and then the name is going to be update product info. You're going to get the name of it. So we're going to get it's called product name. So this will be product name, and then this, I'm getting these values from this context here. So if you're wondering where I'm getting those values, okay, because we're dealing with that context in the moment. So I'm going to also get quantity underscore in underscore stock. Again, if you want to check how I'm getting these values, you just refer back to the back end. This video is getting a bit too long, so I don't want it to become too long. So this is going to be quantity. This is quantity in stock. Okay, so that's that, and then I'm going to get quantity underscore sold. Quantity sold is going to be update product info, and then the quantity sold is going to be just be quantity. Make sure I get the quantity sold, and then now that we have that, we're going to also going to define the unit price, the unit underscore price, and then the unit price is going to be update product info, and then I'm going to get the unit price. Okay, so this, I'm getting these values from this right here, so I'm going to get the unit price. Yeah, so unit price is right here, so Control C. So again, pass in that unit price, and then I'm going to have a revenue, because we're going to also update the revenue, and the revenue is going to be update product info, give me their revenue. Yeah, that's all we need to do. So now that you have the body, we can just go ahead and actually make that request. Okay, now that we have that thing that there, we can go ahead and actually begin to make a response, get the response back, and then we can be able to make that request. Okay, so what I'm going to do for now is I'm going to come down here, and then from here I'm going to do response, and then the response is going to be .json, then we're going to get a promise, we're going to get a response, and then you're going to pass that into another function and then you're going to check if response dot status. We're going to check if it's an okay, because we're going to our backend returns okay. So alert, and then you're going to alert the user product updated, and then then you're going to have an else. So an else, and then you're going to have an else here, and else you're going to return to the user alert failed, failed to update product. Okay, going to tell the user that we have failed to update that product. Yeah, so that's all we have for that response. And then now that we have done that, you're going to set the update product info. We're going to set it to a new value. We're going to set an empty, the form to be an empty field. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to copy these values right here, copy it, and then I'm going to bring it here, and then I'm going to paste it here. That's all we need to do. Yeah, that's all we need to do. So for now, this will just be all of this should be an empty string. This should be an empty string. This should be an empty string, and as well this should also be an empty string. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to get the values from the form, get the product ID, make a response to the server, then make a push request to update that, get the response, check if the response status is okay. If it's okay, means that the product has been updated. We'll allow the user that the product has been updated. Else we'll tell the user that the product has not been updated, and then you're going to set the update. You're going to update the state, the context, to be just this empty value, so the form can be empty. Okay, so now let's try to refresh that, and then update product info is not defined, so that's line 33 of update product. So line 33 here, this is update, this is not data, this is update, so check that out. Okay, so now let me just go back, and for now I'm going to do this update, and I'm going to set the quantity in stock to be 60. Okay, let's say I've increased the quantity to be 80 rather. Make a post request so that it tells me that the product has been updated. So if I'm going okay, now you can see the values have changed back to nothing. So if I come here, you can see now the quantity in stock has been updated to 80. So guys, that's how you can write the update functionality for this. That's all we need to do to write the update functionality to update our product. So if you are guys, if you are not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please kindly consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, and if you are not new here but you haven't yet subscribed, please kindly consider subscribing, give this video a thumbs up, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos on Python, web development, JavaScript, React, and stuff like this. So thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Keep safe.